remembrances coming to mind. One was down in Dauphin Island. I was there with Kevin when you were really little, like a year and a half, kind of that or so. And I woke up really early, maybe to go to the bathroom or something, like 5-ish. And he's having coffee, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I see the bottle of rum on the counter. I mean, he's putting rum in his coffee. He'd put like anything in his coffee. Rum and coffee, nasty, 5 in the morning. And then also at Splits Cottage, he used to always like open it up for us. And I went in the front bedroom where the 2 bunk beds on the top bunk, and there was a glass on the top bunk. And I didn't like sniff it or whatever to find out what it was, but it was one of his little cocktail glasses. So, oh yeah, he drank a whole lot for sure. Was it a drinking, but it became a drinking problem, you know, when he would lose it. And
right.
we all have not so great memories of him in that category.
Yeah, but the drinking was different
also
over
it could
the
be
years.
fun. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And it also could be part of the fun.
Yeah.
Until it wasn't.
Yeah. Until it flipped.
Like he hit his peak and he didn't know how to say, yeah, I'm out, I gotta go to bed or something. He would just, but think of how he grew up. He grew up with all these, I'm sitting at Grandpa's card table with places for the glasses, and that was at their cottage. But think of this, how he grew up, because he had all these aunts and uncles drinking, playing cards, cussing, bad hand, cussing and storming off to go home. So that was his kind of learned behavior in a sense. Now, some of us are able to adjust that, mature, and find better ways for ourselves. And he never did. He never really had to, like with Grammy, with Mom, he never really had to. And even with us. But you guys also remember, one last thing, and I'll be quiet. We would be in Splits Cottage, and then like dinner was ready up at Mom and Dad's cottage. And we would always be like, oh, what's the temperature? We'd send somebody, like probably Mark or somebody who could be a Paul often enough, right? What's the temperature? I remember. And like, okay, in other words, are we welcome? You know, is it safe? A lot of things like that. But, yeah, but I have to say personally, so I did say one more thing, and this is the final last thing for now. I mean, we also had some great times. We would never have gone to Dauphin Island if we didn't have him. I wouldn't have gone to see Split for Solen's first birthday. So there were a lot of positive things too. We had great educations growing up. So those are big picture positive things that I can think of right now. But yeah, he was complicated. He could be very genial, very polite, very fun. And then if there's an expression in Ireland, it's called up to 90. He'd get up to 90 and he was just like, I can't handle it. I'm like a steam kettle exploding.
It's true. I agree with that.
And other times, and I was thinking about this earlier today, was the christening party, which has got to be legendary, to bring it around.
Kevin's christening.
Yeah. We went and dragged them out of the room, and they were there until 4 a.m. It was incredible. That was a huge party in a very Irish sense, and he was magnificent, and even Mom was pretty tremendous that night.
Oh, that's one of my favorite pictures. Dad's blowing bubbles and Mom's half cracked, and yes. Yep. And he paid for the whole thing because I was buying like 10 drinks around and he never said a word.
Yeah.
He paid for those gorgeous
lovely memory. However, you know, I mean, there's a balance for all those things, right? I think a sense of perspective is vital, and he didn't come to visit me in Athens many times, where just for the camera, I lived for 30 years, and I had a rather unusual Indian girlfriend, and she was kind of a hippie, and we went to their hotel, and it was 9 o'clock at night, so past Dad's normal best hours. This is in 1999. And he, of course, had not, planned dinner ahead of time, and he didn't want to go out, so we ordered pizzas. And there was something wrong with the pizza after about the second cocktail, and he took the pizza box with the pizza in it and launched it across the room like a frisbee. And the pizza came out of the box. The box hit the wall, opens up, pizza comes out of the box, explodes everywhere. My mom is sitting there looking absolutely mortified, and I'm just waiting because I really like this girl, and I wasn't, prepared to be embarrassed by him. And the perspective sense is she laughed her ass off. It was the funniest thing in the world to her, because it was the first time that she'd ever met him and hadn't been used to any difficulties beyond her own family.
Yeah.
I thought of that frequently in the, whatever it was, 17 years after that, when things would go sideways and be unpleasant. And even though the girlfriend was long gone, hopefully I adopted a little bit of her carefree attitude towards it, and her sense of, I don't know, bewilderment, enjoyment, what have you.
I can't even imagine what that would have been like. I'm trying to think, if I were in a situation like that, would I find that funny? I don't think I would have laughed. I think I would have been like, what the fuck is this guy all about?
Yeah, he was a little challenging to introduce friends or romantic people to, because it's not like, in my experience, just Robert De Niro in that movie. It's way darker than that sometimes.
Absolutely.
But then I agree with you, and sometimes I wonder, like, I remember when I was in Africa and I was training, I was setting up scholarships for people coming to the States, and I didn't think twice about sending this group of Mauritanians to meet mom and dad, and they just rocked up at the house. And I don't know why I was so clueless. I should have thought, well, wait, maybe it's a great idea. But they were, mom and I wasn't there. Bean, were you there when they came?
I don't know. I met somebody in Madison once, but
Yeah, the same guys that were going to
his
Madison.
name was like Simba Du or Bach Choi, some guy like that.
Demba Ba.
Dimba Ba, that's the guy, yeah.
It was
But
pretty
I
awkward.
think they just rocked up to the house, and mom and dad just, rolled with it, which when I think about it now, I think, Jesus, that was a dumb thing to do, because if they would have landed on a bad day, what would have happened, But
I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, it did matter what kind of mood you caught him in, right? Because while that worked out, like, I'm remembering Split's college graduation when he starts ragging on your friends for not knowing who Wellington was.
That does seem to be a big point of emphasis about Akbar, is that he could let his emotions take over himself and really kind of act erratically, it seems like.
Well,
completely.
as we all do.
well said.
And then
As
some.
we all do, except that the social norms fell away from him, in light speed, as opposed to most of us who can watch it, sort of, and most of us will run away before losing our shit.
I remember just a few years before he died, and maybe before, I don't know if he had been diagnosed yet or not, but I went to visit them in Rapids. It must have been in the early teens, 2000s. And we went to, it was just me and mom and dad, and we went to the Mead for dinner, and they were doing some construction there or something. And so we're having dinner, and there's nobody else really there except for the people that work there. And they were making a little noise or pounding or something. And he would just yell out randomly, shut the fuck up, like, as loud as you can imagine. And
that sounds like
part of it is because we grew up there, at least some of this is our reaction and how we dealt with it. Paul, I've always thought, dealt with him better than I did.
Yeah.
And Split maybe did a little bit better too. Some of the rest of us were more, I don't know, intimidated or pissed off by it. I don't know what it was, but I could have, thinking about your story, Paul, about the pizza thing, I mean, I could have laughed or something, but I was embarrassed and
I was mortified until she started laughing.
and I'm like, who starts, dropping F-bombs in the middle of a restaurant over a little bit of hammering at the top of his lungs, so that people who didn't know us were like, whoa, this guy's crazy. I mean, I could have laughed. I could have kind of gone whatever, but
Yeah.
I was like, oh, fuck me.
Hey, Dave,
Tom
question
and I
for
were
you.
looking at each other and it was just like the worst.
Hmm.
Dave, question for you. If that happened somewhere else and you were with someone